Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90.
Only to interfere with the upcoming 2024 election.
Former President Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial coming closer to an end. Lawyers for both sides presenting closing arguments. The final presentations are expected to take up all of today and could even last into tomorrow. Then it's up to the jury. More than 20 people are dead after storms ripped across the U.S. over Memorial Day weekend. The destructive storms causing deaths in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Today, central and northern Texas face the most serious threat of more severe weather. Israel is facing international backlash after a strike in Rafah killed at least 45 and wounded 200 others. Israel's prime minister calling the incident a, quote, tragic mistake. Today, the UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting to discuss the deadly airstrike. Yesterday, the UN Secretary General saying, quote, this horror must stop. A United Airlines, one of its engines caught fire. The Airbus A320 bound for Seattle was still on the taxiway when smoke began billowing from one of its wings. United says no one was injured and delays were minimal. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
I'm meteorologist Josh Linker, and after a very active stormy holiday weekend, things are going to be confined to basically just Texas for as far as severe weather is concerned, and that'll mainly be late in the day and into the evening. Across the Great Lakes, we are looking at some hit or miss showers and a few thunderstorms. And then farther out to the west, another storm system will actually bring some cooler weather into the northwest in the days ahead.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Closing arguments beginning today in Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial. Attorneys will have one last chance to address the jury before deliberation, which could start as soon as tomorrow. Ariana Harry has been in court every day of the trial and has a breakdown of the case.
Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned. New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury.
It's been called one of the most consequential cases in American history. April 4th, 2023, former President Donald Trump was arraigned on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg believes those records covered up an illegal scheme.
A catch and kill scheme. That is a scheme to buy and suppress negative information, help Mr. Trump's chance of winning the election.
Hours after his appearance in Manhattan criminal court, Trump addressed supporters at his Mar-a-Lago.
To interfere with the upcoming 2024 election.
The case moved forward. Last month, 7 men and 5 women were selected to hear the case against Trump. On April 22nd, the jury listened to opening statements.
You are in the midst of a historic trial. How did you feel about the level of preparation of your prosecutors going into the prosecution of former president?
What I will say generally is that the phenomenal public servants that I work side by side with are prepared for the challenges that confront them.
As the trial got underway, Trump was fined multiple times for violating the case's gag order. The judge barred Trump from making comments about the jury and the witnesses.
This judge has given me a gag order and said you'll go to jail if you violate it. And frankly, you know what? Our Constitution is much more important than jail. It's not even close.
Over 19 days, the former publisher of the National Enquirer recalled working with Donald Trump and Michael Cohen to block negative press about Trump, all to help Trump's 2016 bid for the White House. Adult film star Stormy Daniels described a sexual encounter with Trump in 2006. Mike Cohen told the jury, at the direction of Donald Trump, he paid Daniels $130,000 to stop her from telling her story shortly before Election Day. Cohen was later reimbursed for that hush money payment to Daniels. His reimbursement was listed as legal expenses in Trump Organization records.
The bookkeeper put it down as a legal expense. This is why I'm here, because we called it a legal expense.
At the heart of this case, questions about Michael Cohen's credibility. Cohen previously admitted to lying under oath, and a key witness for the defense, attorney Bob Costello, said Cohen repeatedly told him Trump had nothing to do with the Stormy Daniels hush money payment. Cohen explained he used loyalty, but that loyalty is now gone. The defense rested its case Tuesday. Donald Trump did not testify.
I don't think it would be a very good combination to have Mr. Trump testifying and trying to get away with his usual banter in an actual courtroom.
When the jury returns to court Tuesday, they'll hear closing arguments from the prosecution and the defense. Both sides are expected to hone in on Michael Cohen and whether or not the jury should believe him. Before they begin deliberations, the jury will receive crucial instructions from Judge Juan Merchan.
The jury instructions are very important because this is the law that they are going to apply to the facts of the case.
Jury deliberations can take anywhere from a few hours to a few days. Donald Trump has denied all wrongdoing in this case. Ayana Harry, Spectrum News.
Powerful storms sweeping across central and southern parts of the country over the Memorial Day weekend, claiming the trail of destroyed homes and businesses and power outages. Spectrum News anchor Jenna Enoch has the details.
Destructive storms leaving communities in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kentucky shattered.
We both feel very lucky to be alive because a moment there I thought, well, I'm going to be able to hold it together.
After an incredibly dangerous storm system shifted across the U.S., killing at least 22 and leaving total devastation in its path.
Well, we're still a little bit tender. We're a little beat up still with it. So, and it was a doozy, that's for sure.
The National Weather Service says a tornado that touched down near Tulsa, Oklahoma was at least an EF3. Family and friends there are grieving for two people who died during that storm.
It was heartbreaking just hearing him scream for everyone, trying to find everyone.
Texas hit the hardest. A woman and two of her young children. Their trailer was thrown across a street during the storm, leaving utter destruction and devastation. At one point, more than 500,000 customers across the eastern United States were without power Monday afternoon, including about 170,000 in Kentucky alone.
Everything was gone and that everyone was missing.
Now, as cleanup begins, millions are under heat advisories in the south. Some areas could see temperatures above 110 degrees. Jenna Enoch, Spectrum News.
There are concerns an Israeli airstrike in Rafah that killed at least 45 people and injured many more could hinder ceasefire and hostage negotiations set to resume today in Cairo. Spectrum's national reporter Angie Gonzalez has the latest.
Speaking before Israel's parliament, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged a, quote, tragic mishap occurred during a deadly airstrike in Rafah Sunday that the Israeli government. The attack also took the lives of dozens, including women and children sheltering in a tent camp for Palestinians displaced by the war.
I think in total we had about 75 patients. Out of those 75, 25 were very critical.
While Netanyahu says the airstrike is under investigation, those assurances have done little to satisfy international condemnation of Israel's actions.
Now, we know nowhere is safe, but they are told certain areas of Rafah you can't be in, this one is okay, and then a tent is bombed.
While the White House and many in Congress have said that Israel has the right to defend itself, President Joe Biden and others have repeatedly warned Israel must follow international law and do more to prevent civilian casualties.
Israel must immediately halt its military offensive.
UN officials in various other countries are asking Israel to stop its operations in Rafah as ordered by the International Court of Justice. The top United emergency closed meeting for this afternoon on the situation in Rafah.
Today, Spain, Ireland, and Norway begin official recognition of an independent Palestinian state. Israel has previously denounced those decisions and recalled its ambassadors from all three countries. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Just ahead on Spectrum News, a plane's takeoff halted on the tarmac after an engine caught fire. We'll have the latest.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cooked my favorite breakfast for me. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
Parts of the country, we're going to focus again on the southern plains, and that is going to be for late today and into tonight. There is a bullseye across central Texas, and then the risk for severe weather does extend outward from there to include Oklahoma City and then back into portions of the southwestern United States. But let's take a look at what we're expecting here again through this afternoon. There'll be some hit or miss showers, but the heavier stuff and stronger storms will come in during the evening hours, 7, 8 o'clock. And some of these can be very intense with some gusty wind. Could see some tornadoes here too. And then that'll shift southward and weaken by the time we get into the morning hours on Wednesday. And eventually things will just kind of shift on farther to the east and fall apart. Now we'll look at the bigger picture, taking us again Wednesday morning. And then we'll look for a storm system in the northeast with some rain and nothing really snow at the higher elevations across portions of Montana, and then another round of thunderstorms making its way through the plains. Again, this is all very common this time of year. This is basically severe weather season across the plains, and oftentimes those systems shift toward the east, and that's where we're going to be looking for another round of storms heading into Thursday. So for Thursday, that severe threat is a bit diminished, but it's still present now from portions of the eastern Rockies and then southward into the southern plains. Heading into the next couple of days after that, we're going to be looking for another round of storms out west. Temperatures today very warm across the south, but we are noticing some intrusions of some cooler air. So Minneapolis just 66 today, Buffalo at 64, heating up again in the southwest with Las Vegas at 100, Phoenix at 103. That cooler air will shift eastward for tomorrow.
Well, if you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Former President Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial coming closer to an end. Lawyers for both sides presenting closing arguments. Then it's up to the jury. More than 20 people are dead after storms ripped across the U.S. over Memorial Day weekend. The destructive storms causing deaths in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kentucky. And Israel is facing international backlash after a strike in Rafah killed at least 45 people and wounded 200 others. Israel's prime minister calling the incident a, quote, tragic mistake. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. Rescue efforts are continuing in Papua New Guinea after a deadly landslide in the central highland area of the oceanic country. Officials believe up to 2,000 residents may have been buried under the initial landslide. Smaller landslides, along with falling rocks and debris, have slowed the search efforts for the missing. A United Airlines flight leaving Chicago's O'Hare Airport forced to abort its takeoff after one of its engines caught fire. The Airbus A320 bound for Seattle was still on the taxiway when smoke began billowing from one of its wings. This video from another plane on the runway shows emergency crews surrounding the United plane on the tarmac. The FAA briefly halted arriving flights to the airport. United said no one was hurt and delays were minimal. It's time now for our political buzz. Political director Bob Hart joins us now. Bob, as former President Trump's criminal hush money trial is winding down, we could see a verdict in the next few days. If there is a conviction, explain what would happen then.
Well, we'd be waiting for the sentence. Has never been convicted of a crime before. It would almost definitely be probation. The maximum he could face is 4 years in prison. That seems unlikely. I do think that if he were to be convicted, he would say, "See, I told you so. This whole thing is rigged." And if he is found not guilty, then he can say, "See, this whole thing, it's heads I win, tails you lose." So no matter what happens, it will be a tell you so moment from Donald Trump. And then the question is, then what happens to him politically?
Do you think we could see a large public reaction to the verdict?
Polls show that most people already have baked-in opinions about Donald Trump and this trial. And so I think that by and large, you won't have a major impact, but polls show, I'd say, that a small amount of people say, a net, that it would actually affect their vote, that they would be less likely to vote for Donald Trump should he be convicted. Let's say that's only 2 or 3 percentage points. The initial, you and I know that 2 or 3 percentage points in a tight presidential race could be a huge deal. So I think we have to wait and see. But if there is a slight negative reaction, it could actually be bad for Donald Trump in a close race.
And you sort of addressed this, but what have really been the big political implications of this case? Do you see this having an impact on the election?
Well, one thing that was interesting to me was it limited Donald Trump's campaign abilities for the last month or so, which he talked about and railed about. That's one of the reasons, I think, why we saw him hold a campaign rally in a Democratic stronghold, the Bronx, someplace where Republican presidential candidates haven't gone since Ronald Reagan. So I think, should he lose by a point or two in November, he'll point back to this and say, "Oh, I was tied up in New York for a month or so." So it has hurt him politically that way, forgetting even about what polls show about what a verdict would say.
It does have that as well. All right, Bob Hart, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bree.
Police arresting a man for stabbing a group of young girls inside of a Massachusetts movie theater and 2 more people at a McDonald's. Police say the suspect fled the theater in Braintree after allegedly stabbing 4 girls between the ages of 9 and 17. About an hour later, 2 more people were stabbed at a Plymouth McDonald's, including one man through the drive-thru window. Authorities say 26-year-old Jared Ravizza led them on a chase, ending in a crash where he was arrested. All of the victims are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Ravizza is expected to appear in court today. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and tonight we're airing a special report on the state of mental health in America. Dr. Nicole Cross and the Spectrum News team take a deep dive into the challenges facing our country, and we'll hear from experts in the field about what can be done. That's tonight at 9 Eastern, 6 on the West Coast. Also streaming on the... They're sold in stores all across the country, but they started from humble beginnings. We'll have the story for you coming up.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out?
Take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
With rounds of thunderstorms over the next couple of days and really on top of the last few days, we are going to be looking for the potential for some more heavy rain totals. We'll focus on this and then we'll talk about the severe weather threat in just a moment. But we're looking at our 7-day rainfall, and the heaviest of rain is going to be across the plains with 3 rounds of strong thunderstorms in the coming days. So when you see 7 to 8 inch total, and that's going to be across portions of Texas heading into the next several days. And again, it's not going to be all at once. This is over the next week, but we are going to see a round of thunderstorms for later today and into this evening across Texas. There it goes, and then pressing toward the southeast. Now we're all the way into Thursday, and we are going to see another round of thunderstorms across part of the nation. That's why we're looking at those heavier rain totals. These things will dry on out for Thursday, but it'll be a little bit cooler, and then we'll see another round of cooler air coming into the northwest. So as far as severe weather goes, today we're going to focus on Texas. Bullseye right around Dallas, back toward the west across central Texas, and it's going to be late in the day into tonight. Day 2 tomorrow, the next storm system will start to take shape and push some to the east and southeast. This is for Thursday, the threat for some strong to severe thunderstorms again across Texas, western Oklahoma, and then back toward the southeastern portions of Colorado with the potential for some gusty wind and some isolated tornadoes. Now look at the temperatures. Much of the nation had been pretty warm, and now we're seeing that cooler air coming back. Minneapolis just 66 for the high today. Chicago 71, Buffalo 64 here in late May. Rather cool stuff, but until you get farther toward the south with the 80s and 90s coming back. Cooler with the rain around Dallas, but 100 degrees in Las Vegas, 103 in Phoenix. And get ready for some cooler air to come back into the northwest as well. Lows overnight in the 40s and 50s. The warmest stuff stays across the southern plains. And then tomorrow, look at this cooler air with highs in the 60s. Columbus, Chicago, Buffalo, Nashville at 81. Warming up through the plains and in the southwest and in the upper 50s.
Hall of Fame NBA player and star broadcaster Bill Walton has died. The NBA announcing his death yesterday, saying he lost his lengthy battle with cancer. Walton was inducted into the Hall of Fame for his basketball career in 1993 and later went on to become an award-winning basketball commentator. Bill Walton was 71 years old. Milwaukee-based Palermo's Pizza is expanding. The company will start building a brand new production facility this summer that is set to create about 50 new jobs for the community. Our Allison Bruner visited the family-owned business to learn more about its 60 years in operation and what comes next.
Palermo's Pizza stands as a shining example of what can happen when a family comes together to pursue their spuds.
But as Nick Faluca explains, it comes from humble beginnings.
My grandparents came over from Sicily in the 1950s. They came over to the States with nothing in their pocket.
They worked hard, eventually turning some of their favorite Italian recipes into a business.
In 1964, my grandfather opened his bakery in the Milwaukee's East Side. He converted a house to a bakery.
They transitioned the bakery into an Italian restaurant where they started offering frozen pizzas. They made more sell at local grocery stores and bars. Now they sell millions every year at big-name retailers like Costco. Still, every one of their frozen pizzas ties back to Grandma and Grandpa.
We get to the dinner table and everyone's like, why is he screaming? Like, no, he's just talking. That's just the way he talks. He's just loud and vibrant. And so hence our name, Screamin' Sicilian.
Dax Schaefer is a corporate chef and Brianna Fiak is a manager and a senior food.
I like seeing raw material ingredient in a product, but actually see start to finish, from an idea of a pizza to actually buying it for your family in a grocery store, is such a fun experience.
Both agree, despite huge growth, it still feels personal.
It really does feel like a family here.
The Faluca family has been nothing but generous to all their employees.
it's a great place to work.
The company is rooted in stewardship with a mission to care for its employees, the community, and environment. Feluca says that also comes from Grandpa.
Putting that customer first. A really amazing food, in our case, really great pizza. And the last piece is focusing on your employees. And by focusing on your employees, the great product and the great customer service come with that. And those are the three things that he really focused on in his days in the restaurant.
Building a life and family legacy in Milwaukee over the past 60 years. In Milwaukee, Allison Bruder, Spectrum News.
And you can always stay connected with us here at Spectrum News by getting your national and local headlines on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your... Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs in my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out."